Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Tony Sirianni podcast. I am thrilled to have Kevin Reed, the president of the private client group at Janney, with us today. Kevin, welcome.
Thanks, Tony. Great to be here.
Well, it's good to see you as always. Like I said, don't mind if there's any shining off the top of my head or anything. AdvisorHub makes literally millions of dollars a year, but we're doing this off of my little computer. That's just the way we roll. So you're gonna have to deal with it. I have a question for you. Do you have anything new going on?
A little bit. It's been a fascinating 6 months at Janney, and I couldn't be happier where we sit today. I'm assuming you're referring to our new partner with KKR,
Yeah,
and
I am.
it's been a privilege to be part of that process, getting us to finish line in Q4, and we're running out of the gate hard in 2025.
Well, I think, it's been really an amazing, turnaround. I mean, for years, Janney was a firm that had, really existed on its culture. I don't think I'm saying anything out of school there, right? It had a great culture, and that was the reason, you went there. There really wasn't an equity opportunity, there for advisors. And this seems like it's opening up, broad new vistas. I mean, KKR is a great name in the industry, and Janney's been traditionally a great, name, but a quiet name. So
Yeah, I
it's
mean, listen, I think you're right. I think you know, um, uh, it took advisors sometimes to search us out and
yeah.
understand really what our secret sauce is as it relates to the advisor experience, advisor growth. And I would be being honest if I didn't say KKR's investment in Janney has definitely refocused a lot of the industry on Janney.
Yeah.
And it's been great to have a strategic partner that's committed to Janney's long-term vision, right? And all the things that has made us Janney over the years.
Well, I mean, the other thing that's great is when something like this happens, you get a chance to, and I know you love to do this anyway, but you get to go out in the field and you get to meet everybody. So tell us a little bit about because this is Janney's and this is KKR's first foray, right? Dealing with advisors and I know your guys were straight about the questions and what they wanted. How did it go? How did the
Yeah,
meeting go?
it was a fascinating journey, and to be honest with you, it started, before we were aware of it. KKR made a strategic decision to invest in the duly registered broker dealer space after some previous investments in the RIA channel, and they surveyed the industry. They looked for key indicators around inorganic growth, organic growth, high retention with advisors, and the opportunity to grow a brand. And They found Janney and they chose Janney, and which is great because it really validated, the unique firm that we have collectively built over the years. And so, KKR is coming in and they're essentially investing and underwriting the strategic plan that was already in place at Janney. And I would argue they're helping us accelerate it, which is really causing us to be already ahead of schedule, even in the short time that we've been together as partners. So same leadership, same strategy, and KKR is here to support, not change what made us successful. I think you're referring to the road trips that we
Yeah.
talked about previously. One of the things that KKR was adamant about was really seeing firsthand, what they saw made Janney special on paper, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, I
And
agree.
they embarked on a 100 branch plus road trip over the late summer. And I think that is really when they realized what a competitive advantage our culture was. Advisors who are not shy
Yep.
had the ability to speak candidly with KKR leadership about the whys and the hows and the vision ahead, just to make sure there was alignment. And frankly, that time together, both with KKR and our advisors, really just made everyone realize the benefits of the partnership. And so it was a good use of time. And honestly, at the end of that process, there was just so much alignment between the field and management and KKR. I think that was the most special part of it.
It's funny because what always struck me about Janney from, and I've known people that worked there for years and years and years with the old like Mason connections and all that.
Sure.
Um, the guys kind of felt like they owned the firm anyway. It's like when you got when I was ever there, even though it was owned by an insurance company, they were territorial
Yeah.
about the place, and you felt like and now there's an actual chance to own the firm. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the advisors, we have, our average length of service is in the top quartile of the
Yeah,
industry. We have high retention. Advisors are very proud of being at Janney,
yeah,
and I think they appreciate that autonomy with full service support that we're known for, and they've helped build the franchise to where we are today, because we've always valued them as individuals, and the direct access that our advisors have to someone like myself and the rest of executive leadership, frankly, just has always made us make better decisions around the strategic direction of the firm. But there was one thing that we really could not deliver to them, which was ownership.
yeah,
Just because of our previous partnership. And so this has really been probably the most special part of this process. You're talking to someone that's been at Janney for 18 years. Um, I'm really treasured to have these authentic relationships with these advisors and to be able to provide them ownership in this great firm that they really helped create, has probably been the best part of this journey, to be honest with you. And I think the thing that's going to honestly align us in our growth going forward.
yeah. And also, it's not just for current Janney folks, but there's also an opportunity for folks joining the firm.
Absolutely. I
That
mean,
part. I mean, that's kind of cool too. That was not available before.
it wasn't, and it's actually just in the short couple of months since we closed the deal, it's actually created a lot of interest in the marketplace. We've always sort of once again had a unique competitive place in the market, and I think our ability to now offer ownership really puts us almost in a different category than we were before in a good way. And we're aligned with KKR, right? So we hold the same equity as KKR does. There's no dilution. There's no roll-up strategy. KKR is there, as I mentioned before, to accelerate us and frankly help us become a better version of ourselves.
Well,
And it's
they're,
great.
they're also known as smart guys. So you would think they wouldn't they wouldn't be investing in something unless they figured out this is going to make money down the road.
Yeah, listen, and I think we make that assumption obviously dealing with people with KKR, but I'll tell you just on a human element, since I've sort of been in the foxhole with them, so to speak, over the last 6 months. I think the thing that I've taken away with that I'm sort of excited about is they really understand sort of the intangibles,
Yeah.
right? That are very important to protect, and maybe even accentuate. And they realize that that's just as important as some of the investments that they're going to help accelerate with us as it relates to some of our technology strategy and data strategy, which they're obviously quite experienced with. So
So that
they're good people.
Yeah, I mean that brings up, a point. So now you have a partnership with, folks who, are deep pocketed, right? They want to invest in this thing to take it forward. What are the priorities? How have you talked to them about this is what we need, this is where we should go, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it goes back to my comment earlier that they essentially underwrote our strategic plan that had been in place, our 5-year plan that we launched a few years ago, and that plan has a focus obviously on people, right? So at the end of the day, we're a service organization, and we work for our advisors to make sure that we have the best human capital at the home office and in the branches supporting our advisors, their experience, their growth, technology. We've always, owned our platform. We're self-clearing by design, and KKR has really, in the short order, been able to have us sort of rethink the technology strategy in a way that, frankly, we just couldn't imagine before, just because of their experience and their acumen in that area. And that's really around platform and data and things of that nature, integration, big buzzword now. And then it goes back to, once again, advisor growth, right? This is the thing that's most important to us. And we feel like that is our value proposition to our advisors. So some significant investments going around business development and practice management, so we can align ourselves with advisor growth, which has always been a hallmark of us at Janney.
Yeah, and having the capital and the partner to do that has got to be For you, I know, because it's important to you. That's got to be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Listen, we've always been a very well capitalized firm, and we're even more capitalized post the relationship with KKR. And I think the interesting part of it is instead of pushing up our earnings, which is sort of what we were required to do under our previous relationship with Penn Mutual, this allows us to retain those earnings and invest in these areas in an accelerated way. And that really just kind of opens things up for us as it relates to, where we invest those dollars and how quickly we can ramp up and deliver something in front of an advisor to help them, once again, improve their client service model and ultimately their growth.
Yeah, that also translates into a competitive advantage in my mind. So, because it's interesting, you talked about equity, and we know that equity is part of what advisors today are looking at, right? There's a lot of versions of equity out there. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
But there's not I can't think of any other version like yours where it's a firm that's been around for I don't know how many years again. Remind me, is it
Almost 200.
hundreds of the years, right?
Yeah,
Almost 100 years.
almost 200
And
years.
then what's one of the most sophisticated and respected, investment vehicles with KKR, combined. That's one kind of equity. You could say that's a superlative choice versus a lot of other equity out there, which is, trust us, believe us, we're going to make this happen one day. It's going to go. And you guys are kind of already executing on that.
Yeah, and I think that's that mindset or that view has become evident with all the new advisors and recruits that we've been in conversations with over the last few months as we approach the close in Q4 and as we launched into Q1. They're looking at it differently, and it's interesting to see outsiders kind of view that mix, right? You have sort of Janney's history, Janney's boutique culture. It's once again always advisor first culture, and then you overlay that with this partnership with KKR and the panache and credibility that KKR brings. It's been fascinating to sort of see the reaction from the marketplace, and it makes me excited about the months and years ahead.
Well, there's just really nothing like it out there. So I just think you're just in a good spot. Again, considering how important equity has become to advisors in their decision making. It's just one of the things. And of course, along with equity, um, strong balance sheet and a platform.
Yeah.
That's also something that you guys have and have had for a while. I mean, Tony has often made the um, argument about being independent versus being a Janney, and that you're probably doing better under Janney than you are under for most people with independent, or it's real close. The numbers are really, really close. Now to add in this equity element, it really makes compelling. You have to take a look at it in my mind, right? If you're somebody who's looking at an independent option, this is a pretty good option too.
Well, I made this comment when we first started our conversation. It's that autonomy with for full service support,
Yeah.
right? You can ask any advisor at Janney, and I'm confident that they'll tell you that the entrepreneurial spirit here with our advisors is real, and our platform is open architecture. Our policies are not prescriptive. I will never ever manage to the lowest common denominator. And so, we have this relationship with our advisors as it relates to what we're here, what our value proposition is at the home office. And it's really, it's never about us. It's about the advisors. It's about them. And so for us to be able to package that, so to speak, with ownership, I think that's why we've sort of seen this reaction in the marketplace over the last few months. And we just, once again, I mean, you've heard me say this before. We just can never forget what got us here, right? And we need to continue to focus on the things that we hold true to Janney. And so it really is about continuing to make Janney a better version of itself. And those are the sort of the mantras that I think about and talk about every day at the home office.
So sounds really compelling to me, right? Very interesting. Clearly you're getting a lot of interest. Guys are coming in. So my question revolves around be careful what you wish for, right? So
Yeah.
how do you as a leader, how do you keep culture? This was a question they asked during COVID too, right? There have been crises and times to keep it, but how do you keep that really great unique culture during a phase of growth? You've had these changes, and the way you've explained it makes a lot of sense to me, kind of fits into the mold. And obviously KKR doesn't want to fix what ain't broke.
Sure.
So how do you keep that
Well,
culture
it's a
during?
good question. And when we think about growth, we think about it in two distinct ways, right? First and foremost, we have always and will always prioritize organic growth of our
Yeah.
existing advisors, right? I mean, that is really, you think about our strategic plan, long term, and even our, our annual goals and initiatives. That's where we start, right? How do we make investments? How do we provide better support to help our existing advisors grow? Um, you know, when you do that, right? First of all, I would argue we owe it to our existing advisors to do that, first and foremost. But when you see and you have a focus and you realize that organic growth, your scale issues don't become problematic. I mean, you have to think about it from, once again, maybe an integration standpoint or some technology standpoints, depending on what we're talking about. But we've always been good at that. Inorganic growth will always come second to that.
Mhm.
And when we think about organic growth, once again, we're thinking about net new assets, right? Just like on the organic side. So it's not about headcount, it's about quality teams and advisors joining Janney that do business in a way that will easily transfer to Janney and grow while you're at Janney, right? So it's not about headcounts per se. It's really about making strategic investments in new markets, right? We do feel like there's an opportunity to grow the Janney brand in the Midwest and beyond, thoughtfully with
Yeah.
right type of advisors and the right type of practices, but really focusing on the higher quality advisors that once again are going to align themselves with our platform and our support model and grow. And so when you think about it that way, you know, um, you always have to think about scale. But we're not growing through acquisition. We're not just adding advisors on a headcount basis without sort of a thoughtful approach around the whys and the hows. And so that has always served us well, and we'll have to continue to be diligent about that, as we take advantage of some of the market opportunities in front of us. But it's a great question, and it's something I think about all the time.
Yeah, and it's part of the challenge of growth in any organization.
It is.
Having a plan, which I know you had before. You
Yeah,
took
and we
it.
we listen, I think Tony, we had tremendous growth, post '07 and '08, given Janney's stability. And that was really a catalyst, right, as it relates to the maturity of our platform and the support model that we gave our advisors. And many of us on the executive team were here for that. And I think we've learned on sort of what are the mile markers as it relates to growth and making sure how do we make sure that our support model and our technology aligns with that. So we just have to not forget what we learned back then and
Right.
continue to make sure we're protecting that secret sauce that I mentioned before.
And what are you seeing out there, in the broader marketplace, for financial advisors? I talked a little bit about how I would maybe place, Janney in there, but what are you seeing in terms of what's going to happen to the future for, advisors and, where the new model that it's not a new model, but the partnership and where you're going might align with that.
Yeah. It's funny. I think the advisors that have been kind of knocking on our door, so to speak, from a recruiting standpoint. I would say that that there's really two camps, right? You sort of have these teams that are, I would argue, sort of in their infancy. They've experienced growth, but they're not feeling the type of support that they feel like they deserve at their current firm. It could be the scale of that firm. It could be where that advisor team sits within the rankings of that firm, and the fact that they just cannot, once again, deliver the type of service and support that we have here throughout their depths. And so you have sort of those blossoming teams, I call them, and we have spent a lot of resources as it relates to how we support our teams, specifically the management of those teams as well as the growth of those teams. We have literally an entire service model focused on that. So you have that, and I think what we've seen is that our value proposition for those those early growth teams has really resonated, and we've had a lot of success, frankly, well before the KKR news. The other sort of camp that I'm seeing is, advisors, mostly on teams. So you have the sort of the lead advisor on the team, and they're questioning the succession path.
Mm.
They're very thoughtful about their client experience through succession. They're very thoughtful about their teammate succession, and sort of what is the value proposition the firm is going to offer the successor, right, in that scenario. And we've actually even had the opportunity to bring a number of teams from the independent side over to our model. Because once again, the succession strategy, if you want to call it that, or the succession support model that those firms were offering, really was just below expectations, and frankly, I'm happy to
Well,
pivot.
I think that, and that's kind of what I was getting at too, because I think to an unusual degree, you guys have had success moving independent firms over.
Yep.
And I would argue that, Janney and Stifel and a few other, regional for large regional, powerful firms that have great balance sheets and all that. And they sort of accept that ethos that was the independent movement, which is that the primacy of the advisor-client relationship. We're not going to sue you. In other words, invest the money in your firm to make it a good place to be, rather than so you don't want to leave, rather than chasing guys. So I just think that that's not. I'm glad to see that happening. I don't think it's unusual in that capacity, but you guys have been very successful at that.
Yeah, listen, I think it goes back to a comment you made when we first started, is that we've always sort of been this hidden gem out there.
Right.
And when we get introduced to an independent team, and the lead advisor is trying to navigate the next chapter, there may be some resistance in the beginning because they just didn't consider really what a firm like Janney could offer, that balance, right? Going back to that autonomy and that full service support. And then when you layer in sort of all the economics that we're able to offer around succession,
Right.
that's why we've had success. That's once we bring them sort of under the hood and introduce them to our culture and our value proposition, I think that's why we've had success bringing some of the independent advisors back to the W-2 model.
Well, and you see, look, my vision of where this thing is going is that you're ending up with wires on this side, sort of quirky RIAs here. You see LPL has a W-2 channel. I mean, people are moving together. So now it's like, what flavor do I really want? And that's when I think that the interest in this KKR thing and what you've always had, it just makes for something people should take a peek at, I think.
Yeah, and listen, I think there's Janney's been around for a long time, and we're going to be around for another 200 years. And I think that type of long-term view on the business, especially when we're talking about the evolution of teams and succession, that really resonates with these advisors, and that's just something that we just need to continue to tell our story.
I'm going to leave it there so we end on a high note. But that was great. Appreciate you being here. And look, we can talk about this again. I'd love to sort of follow up and see how we're doing a few months, 6 months from now or something like that.
I would love that, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast.
Thanks, bud.